Anita. So good morning to all. It's my pleasure and honor to introduce our Section 5 speaker, Dr. A. Shaheen Sultana. Dr. A. Shaheen Sultana is working as a professor in the Department of Social Work, School of Social Science and International Studies, Pondicherry University. She has obtained her postgraduate degree and MPhil in social work from PSG College of Arts and Science, Coimbatore, and PhD in social work from Laila College, Chennai. Her area of work and research include medical and psychiatric social work, women and youth welfare, social work with families and children, early childhood care and development, social casework and counseling. She has produced 9 PhDs, 2 MPhils, 77 PGs, and currently supervising 8 PhD students. She is also prestigious author of number of research papers and books on the subject of social work, sexual harassment, attitude, and perceptions. She has nominated as an editor board member in Asian Journal of Social Science, Women's Link, Social of School of Social Work. She is an active member in various professional membership bodies. She also awarded Senior Research Fellowship from University Grant Commission, that is UGC, Government of India, Delhi, in the year of 2005, and then received her Junior Research Fellowship from UGC in the year of 2001. Currently, she is working as a project titled A Study of Student Welfare Service prevailing in higher educational institution of Union Territory of Puducherry funded by ICSSR New Delhi under IMPRESS scheme. So currently she is serving as the Dean Student Welfare of Pondicherry University. So we are very happy and grateful of such high profile and social responsibility person with us in our Atal FDP program. Thank you all. Now I request Dr. A. Shaheen Sultana, ma'am, to take the session.
Uh, Thank you, Dr. Thiago. Am I audible and am I visible? Can you please confirm?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We are getting, ma'am.
Okay. So a very good morning to one and all of you. Thank you so much for having invited me to this FTP program. It's a privilege and it's a pleasure to be associated with all my teaching fraternities across the country. To just know the audience, can you please tell me which disciplines predominantly they are from? Not that we have time to have all of them introduced, but you can just tell me predominantly which discipline they are from. Dr. Thiago? Okay. Thank you. Dr. Manjunath has written on management. Mr. Gaurav has written on engineering. Fine. So I understand predominantly people are from engineering and management backgrounds. It's a pleasure to have all of you in this FTP training program. Having said that, I will be just switching off my video for the bandwidth issues, and during the interaction session, I will get back to you because I believe in an interactive session and I want all of you to communicate to me so that I understand at the end of the session what essentially I have imparted in this 1 hour. Thank you, friends. I hope you are able to listen to me. Now, when Dr. Thiago was discussing with me that he is in the process of developing a faculty development program, generally we do it in person, but this is going to be a virtual one. I was a little apprehensive how we will do this, especially because I am from social sciences background. Not that we are not attuned to virtual presentations, but this is something where we discuss heart and soul with each other person. It's not like I'm teaching something about machines. I'm teaching something about the buildings, architecture, something, but I'm teaching basically a course which involves society. Okay, is my voice echoing, ma'am? Sir, is it okay now?
Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. No issue. No issue. You can proceed.
Someone has written in the chat box. I just thought I'll stop. Okay. So basically, I wanted to know how we as teachers, we from the engineering and management disciplines, we get oriented to what is known as the social science concept and then work in hand to create a harmonious and a very happy society. Having said this, I will just move on to my PPT now so that you'll be able to visually see what I have written on the screen and then take up in the interactive sessions questions and what you would like to hear from me. Dr. Thiago has already introduced that I am from the social work background, but today's presentation is based on my experience as both a teacher, an academician, a fieldwork practitioner, a person who is also been in administration, not only in terms of only looking into the files and accessing, but also working with the welfare aspect of the students. So it's like a combo pack, and that is why, he felt you can just get invited. But at the end of the day, how much it's going to materialize into your hearts and souls is the major challenge which I'm going to face in this 1 hour. So thank you, Dr. Thiago, and that thanks to all my colleagues whom I see have joined from various parts of the countries. Let's traverse this journey of 1 hour in understanding the concepts of, creating what is known as a better world with whatever information I'm going to impart. Thanks. Just hold on for a minute for me to share the screen. Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
okay, thank you. So we had decided that design thinking is going to be the most important aspect of the Atal faculty development program. And when he said it's an AICTE program, I clearly understood that predominantly people will be from the engineering and the technical background. Now it's a challenge because the concept of design thinking which you are having and the concept of design thinking which I would have in my mind is going to be poles apart. Now, how do we diffuse these poles and bring it closer is the challenge, and let's hope we have it in this 1 hour successfully. Now, I wouldn't be a person to speak on design thinking basically in the aspect of engineering or management. But when we speak about design thinking in the area of social sciences, the concept is that the thinking has to be put into the design, but it should be somewhere beneficial to the mankind. Now you might argue with me, yes ma'am, same is in engineering and in management. But somewhere we are relating the concept to human well-being. So that's the difference. Now in the quality of life with respect to physical and mental health. Now, when I start speaking about this topic further, you will be understanding when you see the examples and the case studies I'll be presenting. Now, what is design thinking? Why we have to speak about the culture of design thinking with faculty who are from across the country who are teaching in the higher educational institutions? What is the need? Now, there is a need is my answer because today the world is moving into multidisciplinary perspective. And if I'm not able to cater to the needs of other disciplines, then I fail as a professional. Now, we evolved this topic as part of our conversations, and I realized this is a very good area where I have not explored, and I'm thanking the department, Dr. Thiago, and all the others who have designed this course and brought in people like me from various perspectives to talk to people about, yes, there is a possibility of the culture of design thinking in the areas where we are working, and this can be discussed about, it can be deliberated about in an FDP program like this. So friends, today I am going to focus on one of the most important aspects which I have invested in my last 2 decades of research and experience and teaching and administration, that is youth health and well-being. And this is an area where I cannot disassociate from my fellow colleagues who are here in this program that you don't have any knowledge about that. Absolutely wrong. All of you have been partnering in this journey where you in your own capability and capacities have contributed immensely to the youth health and well-being in higher educational institutions, without which we wouldn't have had such a strong infrastructure in our country. So I take all of you and I accommodate your interests and ideas and capabilities in this 1 hour journey, where me, more than me making you resourceful, you are going to make me resourceful as to what all contributions you have done in this aspect, how all you have designed your thinking to create a positive ambience for the youth whom you are teaching in higher educational institutions. Are you with me? Anyone can respond. Are you with me?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. You know, sometimes it happens that I keep speaking to the audience and then I don't know whether they are listening. So thank you very much. Having the one of the colleague responding that yes, we are with you in this journey. It's a pleasure because all of you, after you teach your respective subjects in your 1 hour of course, when you come back to your staff rooms or when you go back home, you would say, see, this youth has so much of potential, but he doesn't understand. He undermines himself. He does not know. He does not have a positive social environment. That is why he is there. Otherwise, he can really shine. These are some of the dialogues and deliberations I'm sure as a teacher we are taking back home. We are regretting the fact that our academic schedule is queuing us up into this rigorous schedule of only imparting knowledge and not social support, which we can do in bountiful quantities and for which I am roping all of you inside. Friends, traversing this journey for the last 2 decades, I have seen that there are so many youth who come to us in our higher education institutions who go away invisible just because we have to fall in with our rigorous academic schedules. But when we just take our unfolded hands and give a small helping hand to one or two of them, they also complete the journey in a successful manner as the other students do. So this 1 hour, I'm going to focus on what all in higher educational institutions we have been doing to promote youth health and well-being, and what all you have been doing, you can also simultaneously share so that we create a workforce which believes in equality, equity, and diversity, and hope that all of them will have a harmonious and a balanced physical and mental life. So with this, I move to the next slide, the framework of my presentation. Now, why Dr. Tiago has invited me, how he felt that there is a need for a social science perspective, because you all are super duper in your own professions, whether it is management, whether it's engineering, whether it's any other background. But then he felt somewhere that when the whole world is moving towards multidisciplinary perspective, there needs to be a heart in between the entire framework, and that is social sciences, where each one of your contribution is definitely towards the societal development, but somewhere no one has responded by saying that, you know, that we have also worked on this, because probably there is no scope. I hold here a minute. Mr. Rajesh Kumar has raised hand. Sir, can I know you have some problem or you want to ask something? Mr. Rajesh Kumar? Yes, sir. Okay. I can't hear him. I'm continuing. Now, the framework of the presentation is the concept of design thinking. So, first thing I would be speaking about today is what is meant by design thinking in my perspective. What do I feel? The second focal point would be why we need to discuss on the culture of design thinking. So there's something between design thinking, there's something between culture of design thinking, the rationale behind. Then we'll move on to what is meant by youth health and well-being in higher educational institutions. The fourth point would be field level realities That is from my own experience from the social work profession, and also catering to the students' welfare or as in the capacity of the dean. I would be sharing some of my experiences which I've handled here, probably which would be very resourceful and supporting and encouraging for all of you. And the fifth point, the social work practice, which means the evidence based. Was I able to bring in a change addressing the needs of the youth in the higher educational institutions? So I feel so far it must be clear. Uh, yeah, I can see the chat three. Yeah, so far it must. Pardon?
Kind request, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
You just make your full screen, ma'am. Just press, click the slideshow.
Oh, okay, sir. Okay, sir. Yeah, yeah. Now is it okay, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
And the fifth one would be social work practice, which is evidence-based practice. Now, before I move on to my next slide, I want all of you to see this 2-minute video. I hope it plays successfully in Zoom. Let me try. Yeah. Sir, can you see?
Yes, ma'am. We are getting the video.
Okay, good. Okay, sir.
Child protection.
Yeah, I want each one of you to see this so that you will understand the concept of what I'm speaking to you for the next 45 minutes. Yes, sir. So all of you must have seen it's just 2 to 3 minutes video, and I want one or two of you to raise your hands and please share what you felt about the video. Can you hear me?
Video is not playing, ma'am.
No, the video is done. So I want one or two to speak what they have seen.
So ma'am, can I go ahead?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So I feel it talks about empathy, and it wants, as the caption said, that don't look at me, not my disability. So I think it talks about empathy in the first place. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else?
Hello.
Yes.
It also talked about attitudinal change, like even we can see regarding complexion and all. Fair and Lovely is being changed to Glow and Lovely. So it also talks about attitudinal change, I think.
Okay. Thank you very much, both of you. I have my own challenges of doing it online because I am also switching several windows to show you. If it is a live session, I can see your faces and I can see the reactions also. And we used to really enjoy because, you know, I can't be speaking in the manner where I speak about a structure. Mine has to be non-structured because I'm talking something about human well-being. So thank you all of you for watching this video. Now I'll show the second slide. You will understand what I'm trying to communicate through this window. Yeah. Yeah. So the first focal point is concept of design thinking. Now, in the video, you saw something about disability, a child who's standing, who's unable to participate as in the ground because of his disability. He is having some difficulty in his mobility towards moving towards the field, and also how the approach of the society would be towards him. Now, design thinking provides a solution-based approach to solving problems. If you see the entire video, you would see a teacher taking the whistle and then how the change happens that people call him. In the first process, if you see, he will be standing within the house thinking and hesitating whether he can move or he can't go inside the ground. But when there is some magic which is done with the whistle of the teacher, he manages to create a ramp in the ground, and the child automatically moves down the ramp and comes and participates with the other children in the ground. Now, this video, which is created by UNICEF, was a step towards inclusiveness. Now, this is a concept which we are trying to bring hard into the school environment, into the higher education environment. We are also very proud to share that Pondicherry University has been awarded as one of the best institutions for having students with disability and persons with disability, as we are having the best of this infrastructure to have them within our campus, and we are very proud of that. We have been honored by the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, and we consciously follow that most of these students and the staff who come inside have no problems as far as the disability issue is concerned. And we aim that most of the institutions across the country also become as inclusive as possible. Now, if it was a live session, I would have asked you, how many of you really can recall one or two students who studied with you who had persons with disability? I think around 125 to 130 faculty members are attending this FTP program. Can you recall anyone in your classes? I'm sure you all must be my generation, 40 plus, 50 plus, or something like that. How many of you really remember that you had, you know, one or two persons who studied with you? I think very one, two, three, four of them. So in a group of 135 students, you know, are you, there's another question to you all, ma'am. Are you from private or public institutions? If at all you had some students in your class, can you respond? Private. Okay. Okay. Fine. So now, how many institutions, even in the government sector, as well as the private sector or whatever you call, are being inclusive for children. So if this generation did not have students who could come into campus, okay, are we not doing some injustice to them? Now, this UNICEF model, I don't use it per se for the higher education institutions, but because, I can't explain to you since you are somewhere far off, how difficult it is. I can't take you for a field trip to show how the campus is, but I can show you through a video that if we just design a thinking in our mind, we are able to bring this concept of inclusiveness in our campus. I hope you agree with me. How many of us have our homes inclusive? How many of us have our apartments inclusive? How many of you have seen that the buildings, the malls, the railway stations are inclusive? Now, this is a big, big thought process which we have to initiate from our own angles. But this is an example which I'm showing for that, if there is some change in the way we are thinking, then we can create a solution to solve the problem. I hope things are becoming a little more clear for you. Now, design thinking is a way of thinking and working as well as a collection of hands-on methods. So we can't always prove to the world, I can do it, I will do it, I am the one who can only do it, can never happen. We all have to join hands. It's a collection of hands-on methods. Now, in the video, if you had seen, the children have to invite. The child himself had to decide, yes, I can go. The teacher has to decide. So it's a collection of hands. It's a collection of minds which have to think and who have to work to solve a problem. Now, it's not only about disability, my friends. It's also about many other issues which can be easily solved if we only change the design in which we think. नहीं, ये possible ही नहीं है, ये नहीं हो सकता है, ऐसा तो कभी हो ही नहीं सकता. All kinds of answers and responses can be changed if we can just have a change in our thought process, and then we can have hands to bring a lot of initiation as far as the process is concerned. Now, design thinking is extremely useful in tackling. Okay, India lacks in that aspect because we've never valued people due to the mindset and the humanness population. Yes, I endorse that. Now, design thinking is extremely useful in tackling problems that are ill-defined and unknown. Friends, here in this training program, I want all of you to be with me to identify there are some problems which are there in our higher education institutions which are not known to us or which are not known to many, which are not defined properly. By reframing, where I want your support to reframe the problem in human-centric ways. Now, we should never have this approach, okay, we'll just build a ramp and the problem is solved. Might be the person, even after building the ramp, is not able to become inclusive in the setup. So we need some human-centric ways, creating some ideas in brainstorming sessions, adopting a hands-on approach in prototyping and testing. Now, when I was browsing the material after Dr. Tyagi had asked me to speak on this, I was going through and I found in this particular reference, I found these 4 things were something which I could connect to, which I could reflect on my practice. So I repeat at the end of this PPT slide that the first one is design thinking. At the end of the day, after you attend this training program, you should, PPT is not visible? Presentation mode, okay, I'm sorry. Resume share. Okay. Yeah, please communicate to me like this. I'm sorry. Now is it visible? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So hands-on approach. So the first thing is solution-based approach to solving problems. So at the end of the session, we should know that we all are working towards a solution-based approach We all require hands-on collection for methods, and this thought of tackling problems that are ill-defined and well-known, all this is very, very important. So all of you, those who are not able to see the slides, I repeat again, solution-based approach. We are all here to listen to this PPT so that we know that we have to move from a problem-based approach to a solution-based approach. All of you should now think in the concept of a solution-based. All of us will also think that we need a collection of hands so that we'll resolve the problem. We also have to tackle the problem in our campuses which are not defined, which are not known, and we need for this hands-on session, and that is exactly why you are all there in this FTP session. So this is my first focal point. Now, the focal point two, it was the video which I've already presented for you to understand focal point one. I hope I'm audible. The video which I showed about the disability concept was about the concept of design thinking for you to understand. Okay? Request you to move to the appropriate slide. Yes. Okay. Fine. Now, the focal point 3, why we need to speak about the youth in higher educational institutions. Okay, I think we are first PPT only. Yes, yes. The second was the video. Okay, fine.
Ma'am, only the first slide is visible as of now. Can you move to the third slide? I think we are now discussing the third slide in the presentation.
Now can you see, ma'am? Now can you see?
Not as yet, ma'am. If other people can confirm, I am not able to see it.
Ma'am, please click resume slideshow, ma'am. It will
Resume.
open.
Okay. Now before that, I just wanted to, okay, fine. I resume share now. 1 minute. Yeah, can you see now?
Minimize this window, ma'am.
Pardon?
Minimize this window. It will enable you to view the slide show which is behind this window, ma'am. Actually,
Okay. Now can you see actually?
not viewable in full screen, ma'am.
Ma'am, can you see the right side of slideshow, ma'am, in the bottom?
Yeah.
Just commands. After that, you can click the slideshow, ma'am.
Okay. Now?
Yes,
it's
now,
okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Now it's visible.
Okay, fine. So the focal point 2 was a video for you to demo like how you understand disability and the concept of youth health and well-being. Now, why I had to speak about the design thinking was all of us are teaching in higher educational institutions, and we know that the students who come inside, they are coming to study, they are coming to pursue, okay, they're coming to pursue for a degree or they want to have a career, they want to move out, and then they want to shine as whatever it is. But then beneath that success, there is a human being. Beneath that activity, there is a human being with whom we are all catering to. Now, when I showed you the first slide, when I said that we are talking about youth health and well-being, I moved to the video to show that why I have to speak about the health and well-being and how to change our minds as far as the design is concerned. Now, you all have to see this slide very carefully and attentively because my subsequent discussion is going to be on this. Take the example of the child or the youth who had the disability and was not able to come to the ground. Do you think as a teacher, this child who has the aspiration to participate equally in all activities will do better when it comes to academics? Anyone? Anyone? Do you think the child who is not able to participate in activities, will he or she be able to focus on his academics? Correct. So it's very difficult because we know that, the child wants to play, the child wants to mingle with others, and then it's not happening. As a result, his health and well-being will be affected. Absolutely right. Now, I will read this slide and then I'll move on to another statement sheet which I want you to see. The first one, why I have to discuss this with you teachers, is that the number of young people committing suicides are on the rise. So I hope you can see the slide. Young people committing suicides are on the rise in campuses. The reasons are both known, the reasons are unknown. Now, known reason, for example, I showed you the disability video. Unknown, we don't know how many of them die without even telling what is the reason they are dying for. We as teachers, we need to understand this perspective for which we are all gathered here today, that besides academics, there is something which we also have to invest our minds on, and that is the well-being of the student. If the student is not taken care of, there is no point in imparting the best of best knowledge, because that will go above his head because he is not happy in the classroom. So as a teacher, even imparting knowledge, we might have a 5-star, but when the candidate or the student is not able to take that, we get 0 mark in our personal level because we have not been able to identify that the student is having a problem. Now you might ask me this question, but ma'am, I was recruited to teach. Should I think about their well-being? Aptly question. But then we are there within the classroom not only as a teacher or as an educator, but we are also one who represent, the society, where we are there to guide him, to help him to move from one perspective to another, to motivate him or her to move further. And if the student, if the student is not able to move ahead, then what happens? Now at this juncture, I give you one example. I have this experience because sir was reading out that I'm supervising so many and all that. I know that I will supervise and I will finish, but I need to share some stories with you where I'm sure even you would have many to unfold, where we as a teacher will have to operate at that level. COVID-19 came and all the students who were happily moving and having a gala life on campus, along with academics, had to leave the campus for reasons well known. Now, they were not able to understand why we've asked them to leave the campus. The same was experienced with almost all the campuses across the country, in fact, across the globe. Now, they were so happy in their hostels, they were so happy as day scholars, they were meeting their friends every day, they used to eat together, move together, play together. Suddenly, you are asked them, you have to vacate the campus, you have to go back, and we will instruct you when you have to come back. So worldwide, the students' mental health went into a shocking situation because they have waited for this all life to enter campus, which is so colorful, which is so enjoyable. And you should visit Pondicherry University. The ambience is so beautiful, not to undermine any other institution, because I've been traveling across the country, seeing so many universities which are equally good. All of a sudden, the student had to leave. Now, I had a scholar particularly who was very much happy here on campus. And when we asked them to leave, for 2-3 months, he was only calling once or twice because, of course, he was on WhatsApp chats telling what he was doing and what all he was doing. But one day his voice was so feeble. I asked him, what is your problem? Why are you not able to even communicate to your fellow scholars, and why is it? And his answer was so shocking to me. He says, ma'am, I miss the campus so much that is there any chance can I come back there? Now this was shocking to me because I was thinking when students get an opportunity to go back to their homes, they will be the happiest lot because they don't have the supervisors kitch kitch pitch pitch and all, and they will go and enjoy. But then he calls me and says ma'am, I want to come back. Is there any way? And then we said, no, we can't give you that signal because the government has to decide, and only then we'll have to take a call on that. But what is your problem? He says, ma'am, for the last 10, 12 years, I've been on institutions. I've been moving from hostels to hostels. And ma'am, I'm so used to this life that now returning back to my own home, it's a kind of an environment which he has to get adjusted to. You all have been a student. I have been a student. So we know how student days are. Now, gradually, I started working with this student, and then he totally went, unconnected. And I understand when he gets unconnected, then the problem is severe. I got him back last week again. I asked him, and he says, I told him now the restrictions have been relaxed. No more waiting. You just come back. And he says, ma'am, I'm happy. I'm reaching there in a week. Now, this entire process might be very simple, but I have changed my culture of design thinking, where I was thinking all these days that a student can be happy only at home. A student can be happy only in his own place. But I rather, it is that an individual requires a place where he can share, where he can care, where he can enjoy, when he has his mouth masti, he can move from place, he can also meet his supervisor, he can go to the library, he can go to the ground. All this matters. I had to change my design thinking, and I called him. Instead of telling you, be careful, you take care, I said, no, you reach the campus now. We will take care of you. Please come back. And I could see the excitement in him and his apologies from his side that I'm not able to work as I used to work, but I'm sure I'll come back and I will work. Now, this student has been not able to open his mouth for the last 3 months, but then he was able to finally open up because he felt there's someone who's disturbed because of his absence, and he was able to communicate. Now, this is a very small incident, but trust me, after that, many of them have started speaking that, yes, we are missing, we are waiting to come back, which means even the comfort of the home does not matter to them when it comes to their friends, their academics, their library, their ground, because they have a multi-based approach, which is not restricted only within an environment which is called as a home. They love their family, they love their homes, but what they want in this vibrant phase is a multitask field where they can do something. Because this student I've seen, he used to sit in the library, then he'll go to the canteen, then he'll go with his friends, then he'll come and meet me, and then there's so much of an activity which is happening. Suddenly you pull them and you put them into a room where you have to sit with a mask. It's really, really difficult. So this is where, we as teachers have to identify. Now, I did not exactly brief you so much in detail because of time paucity, but I have understood that this COVID-19 has really changed the perspective of many of the teachers who had a different notion before COVID-19, and I'm sure all of you must agree with me on this. Now, friends, coming back to this third point, suicide has been prevalent, but now there is a sharp rise. We all have to understand this, that besides the subject we are teaching, we have to know that there's something which is happening which is not good for the youth whom we are teaching, that there is a sharp rise as far as suicide is concerned. Now, you might also say, no, ma'am, suicide has been there, but visibility is increased. Okay, visibility has increased. Though we might say that the earlier generation, suicide has not been there. But today you open the newspaper, you listen to the news, you listen to anything in the neighborhood, you'll find a suicide. I hope you agree with me on that. We have to know as teachers that it's becoming a public health disaster. And it is sad that people are focusing only on suicide and not the problem which is not right. And this is where, I require all of your support as teachers, that if in a country like India, which is known for its joint family system, which is known for its values, which is known for its family values, which is known for its very strong bonding between siblings and extended family, it's a shock to me also as a social scientist that the suicide number is increasing. Somewhere something is going wrong, and we have immense scope to work as teachers within our classrooms, and that's essentially where I seek your support and cooperation. Something is going wrong somewhere with the health and well-being of the students, and you have to take that extra step behind besides your academics to find out what are the problems of these students, so that we can join hands together to solve the problem. As I spoke in the first slide, that the culture of design thinking requires hands-on approach in prototyping and testing, so that we tackle the problems which is not known to all of us. Any doubts so far? Any doubts? I am continuously reading the chat box. Thank you so much for your comments. Now, at this juncture, because I'm a person who doesn't put, so many PPTs and just keep explaining, but then I want you all to also have a focus on simultaneously the video so that you will understand. Now, it's 12:40 almost. We'll watch another video where you will understand about a teacher's role in a classroom setup. And this is just going to be a preliminary experience, but then I will take you further to a higher level experience. Okay, so you have to just for a second wait for me to switch between the sharing videos. Just 1 minute. Yeah. Now, all of you have to watch this carefully and tell me whether you can see this. Can you see this video?
Yes, ma'am, the screen is visible.
Thank
If you start playing, yeah.
I can start playing.
This is me, Komal. I'm 9 years old. I love my school so much. Some of my friends are naughty at times. But even I'm naughty sometimes, now. My mama's fun, but she can be strict also. So what? She takes care of you also, na? Says Papa. But I still like Papa more.
Hey, Bakshi! Hey, what a surprise!
Papa's old friends, Bakshi uncle and auntie, are our new neighbors.
Hello. Little girl.
It would have been better if they had children for me to play with. Thank you. Bakshi uncle is dropping me to school. Papa was getting late to work, na? That's why. Uncle is very sweet. Auntie's a very busy woman. But uncle works from home only. They have such a nice house. And it is full of pretty things. Wow, unicorn!
It's okay. You can tell Mama you got it from me. Or you don't have to tell her.
Even Papa doesn't play with me so much. Bakshi uncle is so much more fun.
Where is my little doll? Where did she vanish? Oh, you must be here. Yes, gotcha.
He even took me out to eat gola once. Please don't tell Mama, huh? She might get angry. She's strict now. I wanted to tell Mama, but I was afraid. So what if I had gola? Anyway, all my friends eat it.
Hey, you want to play a new game? A secret game?
Yeah, that will be fun.
Come with me.
What are you doing, Uncle? What kind of game is this? totally confused. It felt dirty. Why did Bakshi uncle do it? I feel so dirty. Komal, is everything okay? Hello, Mrs. Kumar. I wanted to speak to you regarding Komal. Beta, why are you sad? Did someone say anything to you in school? What happened? Did someone hurt you? If you don't tell me, my dear, how can I help you? I have secrets. I have lied to you about the gola. And now this. I feel very dirty. You will be very angry if I told you what I have done. No, I promise you I won't be angry. I love you, don't I? Then trust me. He is not a nice uncle. Which uncle? No, wait. Everyone will know.
Then what can we do? Whose help can we seek? We can't let Bakshi get away with this.
Childline. My friend Priya works there. They help children.
10, 9, 8.
Hello. Komal, I know what happened to you was not your fault at all. We will ensure that your Bakshi uncle can never see you again. Let me show you how to keep yourself safe. Hi, kids. How are you all today? Have you ever been in a situation that made you feel uncomfortable? Yes, Didi. When my little dog chews away my shoe, I get very angry. That's true. What I mean is, has anyone touched you in a way that made you uneasy? Which of you have experienced this? So then, how do we know if someone is doing something wrong or touching us the wrong way? Here, let me explain. We all need to have our own personal space in our body. There are 4 zones which should not be touched by anyone, and nor should you touch anyone else's part. Mouth, chest, the part between your legs and buttocks. These are your personal spaces. Only the most trusted people, like your mother, may see and touch you in your personal spaces. So tell me, when you come home from school and your mama gives you a hug, how do you feel? Sometimes she smells of vegetables. Yuck. But don't we feel very nice? Yes, we do. Your mother may touch you in the 4 zones while giving you a bath. Or sometimes Dr. Uncle checks you in Mama or Papa's presence. This touch keeps you clean and healthy. When we are touched by someone who loves us and cares for us, we call it safe touch. If anyone else touches you in one of the 4 areas, it is wrong. It could also make you feel shy, scared, yucky, uncomfortable, and unhappy. Someone could show you dirty pictures or film, or make you undress, or they touch their personal parts in front of you. All such actions are not safe for you, and we call them unsafe touch. Some people do such things even though they are not good for you, and you feel hurt. So then what will you do if someone touches you in these places? You should shout, "No, no!" and run to someone you trust and tell them. Who is that? You tell me. Whom do you trust? My pet dog. Yes, you can tell your pet, but help you. I trust my mama and my teacher. So, if someone ever touches you in a way that makes you uncomfortable, you must tell someone you trust and keep telling them until they listen to you. By talking to the person you trust, whether it is your mama or your papa, you can help to make sure it never happens to you or any other child again. You should also know about Childline. If you dial 1098 and ask for help, a trusted person will come to help you. Always remember, it is never your fault that someone touched you wrongly. It is the fault of the person who did it. Never be afraid to speak your mind. If someone is harming you, speak up. Don't worry, you are safe. Just tell me what happened. Remember, if you or any of your friends are feeling trapped in a situation like this, there is always help available. Call me on 1098 and Childline shall be there for you.
Thank you. I hope you saw the entire video and you are understanding the, just hold on 1 minute.
In everyone's tongue.
Yeah. So this whole video is one very important tool which we had to share it with the teachers. I'm showing you these animation videos. There are so many videos with which we work, which we also take from many other NGOs, and we disseminate among the teachers for them to understand. My entire work has been on children and youth, and I focus specifically on institutions because I feel the moment we try to build them within institutions, they will go outside and build a better institution, which is the community, healthy community. The moment we don't build them within this institution, they go out and they demolish all other existing institutions also. So as a teacher, we have a very resourceful role. If you watch the entire video, you will understand that the primary mode of intervention was the teacher who identified. It's not that the parents did not like the child, they were not, knowing what the child was doing, but the teacher was the one who understood that something is not right with the child, and she took a step ahead and she rang up to the parents to tell she is not focusing on her education. Please find out what is the problem, because it is the parent to whom the child can open up, and sometimes, yes, even to the teacher or to some other family member. And when the teacher was not able to understand what the problem was, she, besides academic, took a step ahead and took out time to share it with the family. That's the intervention which I expect from all of us as teachers. If the teacher had just ignored the fact that the child, whether she's concentrating, whether she's not concentrating, that is not my purview, and just ignored, trust me, the life of the child would have been even worse, because the child must have been undergoing abuse after abuse by the same man. And the parents, without knowing the fact, would have encouraged the child playing with that adult, and it might have ended up in suicide or any kind of abuse or any kind of violence against the child. So credit to the teacher who understands and who tries to find out and spreads this message that your safety and well-being is my prerogative other than academics, is what we need as a human task force in the institutions. Friends, please remember that the students come from diverse backgrounds. It is not that those days when we are studying in one particular district, one particular state, one particular locality, where only the known people come into the schools. Today, we are all moving into central institutions, we are all moving into other kinds of institutions where children and youth from other backgrounds come, from other regions come, from other spaces come, and the teacher is actually the main person who can identify the problem of the student. We might boast of saying that we have the best of the best facilities in the institutions, but trust me, from my experience, that is not much as valued as the individual of the youth which the teacher values within the classroom. Because if the child or the youth is not happy within the classroom, all these facilities becomes immaterial. Take for example the child which you saw, the name is Komal in the video. The parents are doting parents. The parents have only one child. And if you see the beginning of the video, the child was doing wonderfully well in all, getting the prizes. But there is a transit point which happens in the life of the child which changes the entire scenario. So we as educators in our classrooms should be always vigilant of this fact that the child, the student, the youth who's sitting in the class has, if you find out something which is unusual, take a step ahead and inquire into what is happening. You know, when I enter the class, if the time is 10:30, when I enter the class, first a glance across the entire class to find out if all of them are there. Even if a student is dozing in the class, please do relate and ask. I'm sure you all are all doing, but find out why the student is feeling so. And if the student is repeatedly doing, then I tell them, please meet me in my cabin. And then I talk to them and I find out that either they have a disturbing roommate who's disturbing them, or they have something which they have to travel for hours, which is disturbing them. And then we need to facilitate them. Now here I don't say that you be accommodative of all the grievances and excuses of the student. We have to know what is known as positive disciplining among these students. And there as educators, we have to keep really intact. I don't know in the family system how many of the children, come to the parents and ask, can I watch television? Is it followed in many of the families? Can you tell me that? How many of our own children come to us and ask, Mama, can I watch TV now? Have I studied? Can I watch TV now? I can't see any answers in the chat box. I can't see. Yeah, one minute. Okay, my children do that. Okay, one or two. Now, we need to positively discipline our children. The children have to seek permission because they are still children. They are still youth. Okay, it doesn't mean that we are strict mother, but we need to tell the child. I am also a parent of two children. My children definitely ask, can I watch? Did I study? And if I say no, they do ask why. What is the problem? Now, we need to discipline. People from a different perspective say that, no, this is, violating their rights or something. Let's keep all that aside, friends. We are living in a country where we respect, the bonding of the parents and the children. And it's our duty to inform and inculcate the habit of disciplining in the children, because if we don't discipline them young, they become, undisciplined youth, and then it is another teacher who will be handling them within the classroom. So there's nothing wrong if anyone says you're being extremely strict, You just be vigilant of the fact that the child is with you, understanding why we are strict. I remember you all, many of them must be women and men here in this group. How many of our parents spoke about puberty to us? How many of our parents spoke about what is sex and sexuality today? But we as parents, we are bound to speak to them because of the changing social environment which we are witnessing, where abuse and violence is increasing. The news is scaring. So we have to decide at what age we respond to our children who are going to become active citizens in terms of future students in higher educational institutions. So I support positive disciplining. We as teachers and as parents, we have to discipline our children. Without disciplining, we would not have reached where we are today. And if we start disciplining them at homes, we will not have movies like Mom and other things which we have to sit in the theater and witness of all the iniquities and inequalities and the violence which is happening across the world. So we are responsible as citizens, we are responsible as teachers, we are responsible as parents in building a healthy society. Now, this perspective I brought in because of somewhere the fault is happening. We are, just I put the slideshow. Yeah. We are seeing that the suicides have increased and it's becoming a public health disaster. Might be some student who today has not been disciplined when he was as a child. Might be some student in our classroom today underwent abuse and there was no teacher who could identify and put it to a parent. As a result, he sits here disturbed in the classroom. There are children, there are students who are having behavioral problems sitting in the class and disturbing others because they did not have a parent or a teacher who disciplined them in their younger days. So friends, here I do agree with all of you. The visibility of suicides is increased, it's becoming a public health disaster. But we are not witnessing what is the problem, but we are just saying suicide ho gaya to ho gaya nahi to ho jata, something like this, and evade ourselves from the problem. At this juncture, I want you to see a fact sheet which I wanted to show you. Just a minute. Yeah, I hope it's visible. Is it? Is my screen visible?
Ma'am, we can see health, mental health, and that slide.
Thank you. So that is the slide I wanted to show. Yeah. Yeah. So why we need to speak about this? I just glance across hurriedly because I know it's almost we are having limitation time. Now, WHO says health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. So in our classrooms, we can find students who are healthy, but we are not able to identify that they have some other problem. Mental health is a state of well-being in which an individual realizes his or her abilities, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and make a contribution to his or her community. So we have to know that the individuals who are sitting in the classroom should have an adequate mental health capacity where he goes back and gives his or her contribution to the community. Mental health is also defined not just in the absence of mental disorder. It doesn't mean that if a child or a student is sitting in a proper chair, but without any crutches or without any, wheelchairs, but then does not have a proper stability of mind and is not able to cope up with the normal stresses of life, then he or she will not be able to make a contribution to his or her community, and it is our duty to identify and help the student. Now, We as teachers, we need to understand that good mental health is characterized by a person's ability to do the following functions. That is, the student should have the ability to learn. At the same time, the student should have the ability to feel, express, manage a range of positive and negative emotions. He or she should have the ability to form and maintain good relationship with others. He or she should have the ability to cope with and manage change and uncertainty. Now, when I spoke about the scholar with whom I was following it up during the entire COVID, now there has been a crisis, that is a COVID pandemic crisis, but was he able to cope up with and manage the uncertainty is a question. So cases will come up like this. And it is we, the teachers, who have to travel with them to identify and help them and to support them so that we can move ahead. Now, this is my main focus today. According to government statements, between 2014 to 16, a total of 26,500 students have died of suicide in the country. I'm repeating, 26,500 students, which means each student has left behind traumatized family members and friends. This is where I want your attention, friends. Children and young people's mental health and psychological well-being is one of the most challenging issues which is facing the family, which is facing the schools, and which is facing the wider society. Of teachers who had taught for more than 5 years, 94% had seen an increase in pupils presenting with mental health problems. After this talk, when you go back to your classrooms, you will also be able to identify that yes, probably we did not realize that this student was in need, and we did not probably identify, or we did not feel we were equipped enough to understand and then identify that this student required help. Now, 1 in 8 children and young people have a diagnosable mental health condition. Friends, I repeat again, there are young people who want to have a diagnosable condition, and 35% of teachers do not feel confident knowing how to support young people with mental health issues. Now, this is exactly why Dr. Tyagu and his department wrote me inside that many of the teachers aren't confident, including me, if I had not been sitting on this chair of Dean Students Welfare, or I have worked as a teacher, or I have worked as a social work educator, because we have learned about the subject content, but we have not been equipped enough to handle students in need of mental health concerns. The government has recognized the scale of this challenge and the need for better support in schools to tackle it. In December 2017, the Transforming Children and Young People's Mental Health Provision Green Paper introduced a new policy to create mental health support teams to work with children and staff in education settings. The aim of these teams is to provide extra capacity to deliver evidence-based psychological interventions in schools and create better links with wider services. So I repeat again, evidence-based psychological intervention. Many cases I could have shared if there is more time, where I can say that how we are dealing with the students in inquiry committees, in several committees, and how we help them to acknowledge the mistakes they have done, but then also support at the same time to come out of these mistakes, these errors, so that they don't repeat back in their life. To make the biggest impact for children, mental health support teams must be developed, must be in mental health, I repeat, friends, as just unable to set up mechanisms and deal with complaints and cries or help is a shame. I repeat again, mental health is seen as everyone's responsibility. So if we don't treat that responsibility, we are going to contribute to what is known as a national loss. Read the last sentence in my data sheet. The loss of these bright young minds and lives is a national loss. When this form of loss is considered serious enough to take immediate measures. I repeat, the loss of these bright young minds and lives is a national loss. When will this form of loss be considered serious enough to take immediate measures? Thank you, friends, for following up with me in this PPT. Now I go back to my PPT here. Yeah. Just one. Yeah. Now my question goes back to the earlier slide where I said that the problem is there, which is known and which is unknown. And it's a duty of the teacher within the classroom, within the institution to identify and get it right. Why higher educational institutions? That is why I showed you this data sheet. We are losing students on campuses. They are becoming an invisible population. No one speaks to you in this angle because we did not have such programs where the realities are being shared to you. But now it's time that we rope in people of different stakeholders within higher education institutions where we sensitize them, we tutor them, we make them aware, we show them videos, we speak to them the reality, we tell them their responsibility, we tell them their duties, we speak about the rights of the students to make a student-friendly campus across the country. Now, why Dr. Tyagu roped me in, not to blow my own trumpet, but all these experiences are based on field level realities. I started my career with the Honorary Director, Center for Child and Adolescent Wellbeing at the Delhi School of Social Work, Department of Social Work, University of Delhi. This was a combo center within the department and in the community. I got to see so many things with respect to the youth well-being. Then I moved on to take up the role of the student advisor at the University of Delhi. I took over as the coordinator Pondicherry University Daycare Center and pre-primary school, where I saw when parents came and dropped their children, what kind of anxiety and apprehensions and trauma they go through, and how the separation process of the child and the parent can be taken care of so that the teachers can go back and function effectively in schools when their children are taken care of in the daycare center. I moved on to become the head of the social work Pondicherry University, where I got umpteen work with students at several levels, including foreign students. I was given head in charge, I was in charge, and then I moved on to become the dean. Excuse me, talking. Someone is speaking, sorry. Hello. Someone is speaking, there is a disturbing.
Mr. Rajavel Raja, can you please mute yourself? Thank you, sir.
And then I moved on to become the Dean Students Welfare. Today, I take care of almost 6,500 to 7,000 students across all the campus, which is situated at Mahe, Yanam, Karaikal, Puducherry, Port Blair, Andaman Nicobar Islands, and all that. So my experiences over the years with respect to student health and well-being has enhanced. And today, sitting at this position, I'm able to understand when students walk into your office with a problem, where to connect, how to dissect the problem, whom to connect, whom to refer, how do we resolve this problem. My entire culture of design thinking has changed. Might be when I was in the position of the honorary director, the maturity then and the design thinking of solving the problems today has drastically changed. And when Tiago came up with this idea, I really enriched and I felt, yes, we need to speak to teachers how your design thinking can be changed to change the culture of the mind in handling the problems. Because going back to my first slide, when I say that You require a multi-level people with whom you can join hands to resolve the problems. Please don't restrict yourself in only resolving the problem with respect to academic queries of the student. Open your hands, embrace the students, acknowledge their problems, tell them how it can be resolved. If not, at least refer to them, to people like me, to people like many across the nation in social work profession, counselors, psychiatrists, psychologists, so that they can be built as healthy individuals. Only if we build healthy individuals, we can build healthy institutions. And only when we build healthy institutions, we can build healthy communities, healthy families, and a healthy nation. So with this, almost my social work practice in terms of evidence practice, I have shared with you in terms of case stories. There's one more perspective which I would speak, and then with that, I will end my session. It's 1:10 now. My time was till 1:15. 2 minutes more, I'll speak, and then I'll open up the session. Please remember these concluding remarks of mine, which can help you to be an effective teacher. One, students come from diverse backgrounds. It will be difficult for them to understand you immediately. They will take time to understand what you speak, what is in your mind. Please give them some time. Please inform the students like I informed you all that I might take time to understand you all because you are from a different profession and I'm from a different profession. The only connecting point is that we are teachers. So it will take time. I, as Shaheen, might come from a different background from you as Santosh and you from Urmila coming from different backgrounds. Our minds have to get connected, our chemistries have to work. It might take time. Explain to the student that you also have a limitation as a limitation he or she has. Acknowledge them, apologize where you can't. Tell them that yes, you are having the same kind of problems and grievances as they have, but then we can work together, joining hands and resolve them. Student safety, security, healthy well-being, which includes both physical and mental health, is concerned as its our institutions concerned.
ஏன் ஒரே மசாலா வாசனை அடிக்குது பருப்பு குழம்பு மட்டன் குழம்பு சொல்லுப்பா
Please switch it off. Yeah, so please share with these students that their safety, their security, their mental health, their physical health concern is equally your concern. It is not only for academics that they can come to your pedestal, to your office, but it is beyond that. Tell them that you can't resolve everything at once, but you can believe and you resolve something. And where you can't, you can extend a helping hand, you can refer them so that they are taken care of. Friends, with these few words where I believe that all of us should join hands in building these institutions, where I said that mental health and physical health of the student is everyone's concern. Besides academics, we need to help them come out of their problems. Only then we can build a strong nation. We all have this obligation of building a strong institution, a strong community, a strong family, a strong nation. Only then, as teachers, we can be proud of. Thank you very much, all of you, for your patient listening. We did have some technical glitches, but thank you so much for being accommodative. I would have loved to meet all of you in person, but besides that, thank you for the technical team for resolving this issue and helping us to connect, though we are miles apart. And I hope all of you will join hands in reforming the lives of students, in helping them by just a little more noble gesture and making them learn both academically as well as psychologically, so that when they go out, this chain of helping each other develops and we build a strong nation. I shall wait for another 3 to 4 minutes for you to ask me any kind of questions. Please keep these videos in your mind intact so that you understand that we need to be inclusive, we need to be a very sensitive and a very accommodative teacher within the classroom and outside the classroom. Thank you very much.
So thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your excellent session. It's a very informative and a social responsibility of a faculty members. and you are sharing a wonderful videos regarding the social response. And now the session is open for the participant. If you have any questions, you can interact with our speaker. So you can also post your questions in the chat box.
I hope you have not gone for your lunch, leaving me alone.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Gurpreet this side.
Yes,
I'm not from engineering background. I am a humble CBSE educator. I've been in the education sector for the last 24 years.
good.
And I was very, I'm in sync with whatever you are saying. And we try, and I think together we can make a difference. Just it's a matter of creating the awareness and probably, just enlightening the minds of people. So if we go to any foreign country, as you mentioned, that things are very, very aligned with the mental well-being, and even after the COVID, in during the COVID times. So whenever I'm attending any international seminar, they are always talking about the mental well-being of the teachers and the students. And in India, it's always pressurizing the faculty or pressurizing the teachers. So yes, it requires a lot of mindset change and attitude change. But I'm glad we have at least started, and we will definitely make a change soon. So thank you for your presentation. I really liked it, and I really appreciate the points that you have shared. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Just one last thing. Always remember, even as a student, we never used to like teachers whom we are scared of. We always used to like teachers whom we love to respect and share. So this fear factor somewhere has inhibited students from approaching us. So as a practicing professional, this is what I've been advocating on campuses and even across in classrooms and with students, that the students should never be scared to speak to you. Respect is different, but asserting is different, everything. But then they should feel free to approach you with a problem, whether it is in academics or it's in personal or professional life. Only then we are considered as successful teachers. So this we have to inbuilt in our in-service training programs, and I'm happy that we were able to discuss all this in detail. I know what I have spoken is only a drop in the ocean, but then this drop, whether it reverberates, whether it moves ahead, is all in your hands. Thank you.
So any questions from the participant sides? Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Tyagu, for giving me this opportunity, and I welcome all of you to Pondicherry. If you get a chance, please come. It's a beautiful place. Come and visit. I'm sure the coordinator will help you in case you require any assistance, and we are always happy to host you here as well. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. So once again, a kind request to the participant, please fill the feedback form, which is posted in the chat box. So now it is working. You can fill it.
Yes, sir. We've
Thank you.
been able to access this session feedback form. So thank you for that. But the previous one, I was not able to access even through my mobile.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you.
Ma'am, request you to please share your contact details if possible in the chat window.
Yeah.
Shaheen, ma'am.
Yes, yes.
Thank
sure.
you so much.
So kindly note down the contact details of Dr. Shahana ma'am, which is posted in the chat box. So thank you, ma'am. Thank you for sharing your information. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, Dr. Tiago. Anything else?
That's all, ma'am. You can sign out, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, sir, and the entire department at Manogavan. Thank you.
So those who have missed the feedback of session 4, you can use it. Hold him now.